Good morning, guys. Welcome to Walking Boxing. Friday, December 27th, 2024. And it's really one of those nothing days, isn't it? It's one of those days where you've got through Christmas, which is one of the most stressful days of the year, tiring days of the year. You get through Boxing Day, and that Boxing Day is probably the most laid-back day of all the holidays, isn't it? You've got through that Christmas day and literally nothing's going on, unless you're one of those people that love going to the shops for the Boxing Day sales. I think we do that all online these days, don't we? But unless you're one of those people, you just kick back, and that's what I did actually yesterday. I kicked back and did literally nothing, and it was pretty hot, so I just chilled with the air conditioner on and scoured a bit of the internet, watched a bit of YouTube, looked at a few of the reports from our business, and really just had a bit of a play on some social media stuff. But that was about it for me. But now from today we start gearing up to New Year's Eve, don't we? So all those young people out there, and well, maybe not so young, maybe there's a lot of older people as well, but for me, I will be sitting at home. I think it's going to be quite hot, so for me it might be a swim in the pool and then maybe a drink, and then that will be it for me, and in bed shortly after midnight. But geez, I just can't get my head around it these days. But good luck to all those that do. Just as they say, be safe. But anyway, just with the boxing side of stuff, obviously there's not much going on at this time of year. There's a lot of potential fights being discussed for 2025. A lot of people doing the years in review, and that's cool. I'll be doing something similar over the next few days as well. Talking boxing, I'll be doing the fighter of the year, fight of the year, some KOs of the year, all that sort of stuff. But I will be doing a standalone video as well, just on the Aussie year in review, because it's been a massive year for Australian boxing. But I thought we do a little bit of story time in between. I think I mentioned this a few weeks back that, this time of year I'll just roll out a few stories. And if you don't want to listen to my stories, that's cool. Just scroll on. But today I want to talk about my first trip overseas with the Moloney boys, Jason and Andrew. Now, this is a trip that we did almost 10 years ago. It was in April, May 2015. And it was one of those trips where you just couldn't script. Of course, we planned it. We planned to go, but we didn't plan to, come here, buddy. But we didn't plan on what happened on that trip, and it's something we just couldn't do. We had a basic outline, but what transpired on that trip, as I said, you just couldn't make this stuff up. And I first met the boys back in 2012, when I used to go down to the gym with some boxers to do some sparring and watch them spar other guys, and they were just something else. They were just dynamos, powerful, fast. And talk about Eye of the Tiger, these guys were just driven. And I remember watching them think these guys are something special. I mean, it wasn't anything out of the ordinary to see that they were something special. I mean, everyone could see that. But I just remember thinking these guys could be anything. And I sort of kept in touch with them over different things and got to know the coach, Brian Butler, really well. And in 2014, I was actually a state coach on the Victorian team to Perth for the Aussie Championships, and it was for the Commonwealth Games trials, and Andrew won. Jason unfortunately got a pretty stiff decision and was out, so he didn't go to the Commonwealth Games. Andrew won gold at the Glasgow Games, and Jason turned pro, and it was the end of 2014, and after that, so Andrew had come back. I think he had maybe 1 or 2 fights or something. Jason had maybe 3, I can't remember. But anyway, I remember at the time thinking I'd love to be involved with the boys at pro level, as far as just a sponsor or just something, being involved. I just thought so much of these guys. And I thought to myself, well, I could probably put the business logo on the shirt or the banner or whatever it might be. But I just thought I'd like to spend the money a little bit sort of the way I wanted to, and then to get a lot of benefit out of it. So I approached the trainer, Brian Butler, and I said, mate, look, I'd like to sort of help in some way as far as sponsorship. And at that time, I was going overseas twice a year for the big fights in Vegas, Mayweather, Pacquiao, Canelo, all that sort of stuff. And I thought to myself, geez, if I was going to maybe you know, maybe be involved. Maybe rather than again putting the logo on the shirt, I could spend my money and maybe sponsor them to go over for a training camp in the States and maybe get to one of these big fights, and they could experience what it's like to be at that level and take in all the weigh-ins and the press conferences and the fight itself, and really see what it's about, and really, you know, light the fire underneath them about what they could achieve. And I spoke to Brian. I said, look, this is my plan. How would you feel about the four of us going over to the States? I'll sponsor it fully, airfares, accommodation, all that sort of stuff, and we'll just take the boys over, and, you know, for a week or so, and they can, we thought we'd go to the wild card or something like that and have a look around, and then we'd go to Vegas for a big fight. Little did we know that big fight was going to be Mayweather and Pacquiao, by the way, but that was before all that happened. So he was a little bit skeptical. Brian was very skeptical because he was very protective of the boys. I think he knew there was going to be people sniffing around. They were pro now and they were going to be good. We could see that. So I could understand he was a little bit standoffish, even though we were friends. And I said, look, and he sort of just fobbed me off a little bit at the start, like, oh yeah, that'd be great, Lyndon. Yeah, okay, yep, no drama. We'll talk about it later. And it never sort of came about. So I got to the start of 2015. I said, Brian, look, I'm serious about looking after the boys. What about I come down, we'll have a chat over, we'll have a coffee and we'll have a chat about it, and I'll let you know what I've got planned. And he went, okay, no drama. So I went down there, I got a presentation together, and it was fully detailed. The date we were going, the date we're coming back, where we were going to go, what was involved. It was fully detailed. I put a lot of work into it. It's just the way I roll, I suppose. I like to be organised. And he was sort of blown away a little bit, and he went, wow, okay, that looks really cool. Let's do it. So it was going to be the four of us, and so myself, Brian, and the boys. And again, it was only going to be for a week and a half, whatever it might have been. Look, it wasn't supposed to be a full-on training camp because, of course, you can't get much done in a week. It was more so just to go over there, maybe do just a little bit of training. But the main thing was about seeing the big-time boxing in Vegas and what could be there for them if they dedicate themselves. Because I was like just going over myself. Just to be in that big fight atmosphere over there, you can't explain it. And I really wanted them to experience that. So it was all planned. And then one day Brian rings me and said, oh, look, would you mind if my son came? I said, yeah, of course I would, mate. It's, you know, no drama. It's your thing. It's no drama. So all of a sudden there was 5. And then he rang up, and I got a call from Jade Mitchell, who was training at with the boys at the time, and Jade said, oh, would you mind if myself and my dad come? I'd love to. And Jade had just turned pro as well. I'd love to come as well. And I said, yeah, of course, mate. So all of a sudden there's 7 of us. And then Brian rings me and says, oh, look, we've got our strength and conditioning guy, you know, he'd love to come. It'd be good to, you know, because at that stage we're going to stretch it out a little bit. And he said, oh, it'd be good for him to come. He's always wanted to go. So all of a sudden there's 8. And then I thought, well, geez, if everyone's going, I may as well maybe ask my old trainer, Pat Connolly, who'd obviously done so much for me over the years. The least I could do with him is maybe get him involved. So I said, mate, I want to bring you over to the States. So then all of a sudden there's 9 of us going. And then there was a friend of Brian, whose name was Brett Butler, no relation, but his name was Brett, who ended up being a great guy. He just wanted to tag along. So that was 10. And then who else was there? There was, and then there was another couple of guys. There was Simon from the gym. That's 11. There was 12. And Paulie Watson. Paulie Watson was another fighter from the gym. Wanted to come over and get some experience as well. So all of a sudden, there's 12 of us going to the States. Now this time, I was a little bit, geez, what are we actually going to? What is this going to entail? Is it going to be too much? And Andrew actually rang me. I think it was Andrew or Jason. It was one of them. I think it was Andrew rang me and said, oh, look, mate, you know, there's 12 of us going. Are you happy with that? And, you know, we can always trim it back. I said, mate, I got no dramas. It's your camp. You do what you want. If you want all these people to come, well, then that's up to you. But I said, I'm just making it happen. The rest is for you to plan. So there was 12 of us that ended up going to the States. Come here, buddy. How you doing? Hey, mate. Come here, man. So off we went. We went at the end of April in 2015, all 12 of us, and it was an adventure. So all we had planned was, we stretched it out to 2 weeks by that stage, by the way. It was to go to LA for starters and go to the wild card. We had nothing planned. They didn't know we were coming. We were just going to turn up. Brian, in the meantime, had organised a day at Robert Garcia's gym in, where was that? the name escapes me, but Robert Garcia's gym, you know, he's just obviously one of the great trainers. And then we thought we'd finish off the camp for a couple of days in Las Vegas, go to the fight. And at that stage, Mayweather and Pacquiao had been announced, so it was going to be a fair bit happening. So we get over to the States and we rocked up to the wild card for the first day, and they looked at us and said, "There's no way these are all coming in here. There's 12 of us." This is when Pacquiao was in his training camp, by the way, and it was all happening. People just everywhere. The place was packed. So it was like, what do we do now? And I think it might have been Brian who might have did a bit of talking. So, look, you know, can we just come in at a quiet time or whatever it might be? And I think they ended up saying, look, just for starters, not all of yous come in, just half yous, maybe the fighters and the trainers, and maybe the rest can just mingle out the front with the rest. And that's what we did. And it was just pretty much a low-key first sort of day. Not much happened. And then the second day we went back, and we're staying at a hotel up the road. It was awesome. We had barbecues at night around the pool. It was fantastic. And we're just up the road from Hollywood Boulevard, by the way, which was fantastic. So the second day, there was a former world champion, I can't remember his name, from the Philippines. And he was there training. He was training for a title fight. And they said, look, you know, Andrew, you know, this young guy, would you mind if maybe he could do some sparring? So, of course, Andrew said, yeah, well, of course, I'm in. So Andrew ended up doing some sparring with this Filipino fighter. And again, he was from, what gym was he from? One of the main ones over there. I can't remember. It's been that long. But so Andrew sparred with this guy and went really well. And Jason just sort of did his thing, and Jade did his thing. And the next day after that, the third day, we were there, and Jade was sparring upstairs just with a local guy, just a guy in the gym, and obviously impressed a few people. And it just so happened Miguel Cotto was training downstairs in the main gym, in the private gym. And whoever one of the trainers there must have seen Jade and said, hey, look, you know, this, would you mind doing some rounds with Miguel? And of course, Jade nearly fell over and had a heart attack at the thought of sparring Miguel Cotto, and they lined it up for the next day that he was going to spar Miguel Cotto. Just crazy. And the next day he did. He sparred Miguel Cotto, and we couldn't see it because we're locked out. It's a private gym. Downstairs, it's an old laundry, and they lock it so you can't get in there. So Jade sparred down there and must have made an impression, because all of a sudden Freddie Roach wanted him to spar Miguel Cotto every day. So that's what he did. He sparred Miguel Cotto pretty much every day, and was getting paid to do it, if you can believe that. Miguel Cotto was paying Jade Mitchell to spar. And just ask Jade, he'll tell you all about it these days. But it was just quite bizarre. And that was something, again, you couldn't plan. Him and Miguel Cotto ended up being the best of friends after that. And then we decided to go down to Robert Garcia's gym, and that's where it happened for the boys, especially Jason. And we walked in, and the boys both sparred with a couple of local Mexican guys, and just really, really good young fighters, and did really, really well. And it just so happens that Egis Klimas, I think that's how you pronounce it, the manager of Vasily Lomachenko, was there, and he had a fighter there. Actually, I think he didn't have the fighter, but it was Gradovich, I think his name was, who beat Billy Dibb. And Gradovich was training at Garcia's gym, and that's what happened. Jason sparred Gradovich and did really, really well. And it was a really good spar. And Egis Klimas was there and said, look, Vasily Lomachenko, who was training there at the time, he was going to be on the Mayweather-Pacquiao undercard, said, oh, look, you know, Vasily's training that night. Do you want to come along and have a look? So it wasn't, nothing was planned. They were just there to look, and we got sort of talking to him, and then fate struck. And later after the spar, or a little bit later on as the boys were warming up, the word came that Lomachenko's sparring partner couldn't turn up. He was sick. And Egis Klimas and Robert Garcia and whoever else said, look, boys, would you mind? Come here, man. G'day, mate. Good, mate. There's another one there. He was sick. So they said that, would you be interested in coming back later that afternoon and sparring Vasily Lomachenko? And of course, both boys just looked at each other and went, wow, yes, we'll be there. So later that afternoon, we went and got something to eat, and the boys had a bit of a rest, and they came back and they both sparred Vasily Lomachenko, if you can believe that. So he walked up the stairs. Remember, there's upstairs gym at Robert Garcia's gym, and he walked up, and I'm not sure he knew what was going on. All he saw was all of us up there, and I remember making eye contact with him, and he was like, you know, he didn't say much, he just nodded. So I'm not sure he knew what was going on, but once he knew what was happening, and the boys were there to help, and they were there to spar, and the boys had a rip of spar with him, and it was so amazing to see him up close. Now, literally a couple of feet away. And the boys were really green at that stage, but they did really, really well. Obviously, Vasily looked after them, but they did really, really well, and to the point where Vasily's Loma said, would you mind coming back tomorrow and sparring? So the Miguel Cotto effect, I suppose, and they'd made such a good impression on him. And so it was teed up that we'd go back the next day and they would spar. The problem was that Andrew damaged his back in the spar because he'd already sparred previously that day, of course, and then the Loma one, he'd done a few rounds, and he was only a young guy at that stage, so maybe just sort of his back sort of flared up, so he didn't spar, but Jason was back with bells on, so we went back the next day and Jason sparred him again. I think it might have been his last spar before he fought in Vegas on the Mayweather-Pacquiao card, so it was just incredible. And again, at the same time, we've got Jade sparring Miguel Cotto, we've got Jason and Andrew sparring with Vasily Lomachenko. It was just amazing. And we were at the sort of going between the wild card and Robert Garcia for the next week and a half, and it was just crazy. It really was. You know, got to have some really good conversations with Freddie Roach and Robert Garcia, they're both such great guys, they really are, in different ways. Robert's more of a character, loves a chat. Freddie's just a really nice gentleman, you know. And of course, at that time, it was just pandemonium for the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. I remember being there one day when I think Jade had just finished sparring Miguel Cotto, and we were downstairs sitting in the private gym, and Manny was about to turn up, and there was just people everywhere. It was just nuts. And yeah, so we got to sort of meet Manny, and it was fantastic. And then we went to Las Vegas. We went to Las Vegas, and we didn't actually get in to see the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight because it was just obviously sold out, and you're paying $4,000 or $5,000 a ticket, all this sort of stuff. So we all watched it on pay-per-view. We all got ripped off. We all had to pay $200 to watch it on the TV, if you can believe that. And for 2 days, yeah, everyone had, you know, let their hair down. It was just a really good night. I still remember one of the best nights we had was, we were only there for 2 or 3 nights, but we were at the Dueling Piano Bar at the New York. There's these 2 pianos across from each other, and they just take requests, and one will, you know, play a song, and then the other one will do it. And there was some Poms in the bar as well, so it was the Aussies versus the Poms, and we had a ball, and we all had not out of control, but we all had a few drinks, and you know, everyone was dancing and singing. It was a really, really good way to end the trip, and it's something that we really look back, because it's something that you couldn't sit down and plan that sort of trip. Yes, you can have the basics sorted out, but to go there and to think that Jade Mitchell was going to be sparring Miguel Cotto, and I think he might have been training for Daniel Gill, which makes it a little bit more odd, doesn't it, to fight the Aussie. So you couldn't script that Jade would be there sparring Miguel Cotto and being paid to be Miguel Cotto's sparring partner. Then there's no way in hell, come on buddy, you could script that we'd meet up with Vasily Lomachenko, his sparring partner would get sick, and the Moloneys would be asked to be his sparring partner for 2 or 3 days, whatever it was. You just can't make this stuff up. And you know, and he was so good, Loma. I mean, him and his dad were very stern-faced at the start, but after a couple of days of sparring, they were great guys. They took photos and all that sort of stuff, and it was awesome. And I didn't actually mention when we first got there too. We went to the fights at the StubHub Centre. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was fighting, and he got knocked out by, who was it? I can't remember who it was, but what was bizarre about it is that the next day we were walking down Hollywood Boulevard, and there was this guy with the WBC belt over his shoulder walking down Hollywood Boulevard that we ran into. It was just the craziest things that were happening. You know, and as I said, just to be in that situation where these things are just happening. It was just crazy. So anyway, that was our first trip to Vegas. So what turned out to be just the 4 of us sort of going for a pretty low-key sort of training sessions, I suppose. Not really a camp. It was only going to be a week or a week and a half, and then it was just going to Vegas to hopefully go to the fight, and to turn into 12 of us going, and all really bonding so well. I mean, we did training sessions in the park, and everyone got along so well. We went out for dinner and had barbecues, as I said. It was just a really, really cool time, and we all had an absolute ball, and we all sort of talk about it to this day, but it's almost been 10 years, and that's why I thought I would bring it up and how quick it's gone. And look what the boys have done in that time. You know, from having 2 or 3 fights at that time to just being pretty much novices, to both winning world championships, having multiple world title fights, fighting in front of massive crowds, being, you know, 2 of probably Australia's best ever boxers. I mean, they'll be judged with that down the track, of course, but for what they've achieved, and they're still going now and have become such great guys. And the one thing I'll say about them, they have not changed one bit. From the first time I met them back in 2012 till now, so 12 years later, nearly 13 years later, they have not changed, and they are just the best guys. And to this day, I think I've said before, they'll take photos with anyone, they'll have a chat with anyone. You know, just great role models for young kids and great ambassadors for Australian boxing. But that was it. That was our trip to the USA back in 2015. Now, we would go again a couple of years later, and I'll talk about that in another episode. But that is, for me, the most memorable thing I reckon I've done over the last probably 15 years, whatever it's been, of going over to the States consistently. That's the most memorable and most bizarre thing that I've ever done, with so many things. And I've probably only just touched on a few of those. There's probably other things that will come up, and I'll no doubt have the guys say, well, what about that? Don't you remember that? Or this or that? So there was just that much going on. And yeah, it's a trip that we'll look back with great memories. So hope you enjoyed that story, guys. Again, I'll think of some more as we go. I've had plenty to come anyway, but I thought you'd enjoy that with being almost 10 years since we did that. So guys, that's going to do it for today. Hope you have a great day, and we will catch you tomorrow.